Hello, everyone, and welcome to Big Sam's Long Balls podcast with me, Dan. Now, today we are going to be talking about my team, Liverpool, once again, and talking about this need to bring in a centre midfielder. It is the topic on everyone's lips if you are involved with Liverpool Football Club. It is the area where we've needed to improve for such a long time, bringing in a centre midfielder. It's been an area that I think has caused quite a lot of friction amongst the fan base, with a lot of fans being very, very eager, like myself, and criticizing the manager, criticizing the ownership for not going and buying someone. And then you've had the opposite end of that, with a lot of fans sort of really agreeing with Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool structure, saying, there's not that many midfielders who would go and improve our team, and that we just need to have faith in the management. So it's been a bit of a fractious time to be a Liverpool fan in some ways, because there's been a lot of disagreements, but it looks like Jurgen Klopp and the coaches and the ownership have all come to agreement now that Liverpool do need to go out and bring in a centre midfielder. Now, when this news broke a few nights ago, everyone got really, really excited. The links to Bellingham just exploded. The links to Frankie de Jong exploded. Now, I did a video the other day about Jude Bellingham, and I personally believe that Jude Bellingham will actually be a Liverpool player next summer. I hadn't been up until that point. My videos previous to that, I was kind of convinced that Jude Bellingham probably wouldn't come. He'd probably end up at Real Madrid. Madrid would spend them more money. He would be a Galactico signing, yada, yada, yada. But then such a top tier journalist such as Henry Winter to come out and tweet so black and white that he's looking forward to seeing Jude Bellingham play at Liverpool next season. It sort of made me feel a bit like, okay, holy hell, this could well be, or this looks like it is sort of almost done. Um, which before that I really didn't believe. So it does look like Jude Bellingham to Liverpool is a done deal. Again, I'm not, I don't have any links to anyone. I just make a small little YouTube channel. That's just my personal opinion. You might disagree with that. But regardless of Jude Bellingham, Liverpool needed to go out and sign someone. So the links to Frankie de Jong, exploded everywhere. Everyone got really excited, including yours truly. I was really desperate to see a player like that. It would be a fantastic signing, a real statement signing. It would also wind the Manchester United fans up, which would just be, it would be an added bonus, wouldn't it? But the idea of bringing in a Frankie de Jong now and having a midfield of sort of Fabinho, de Jong, Thiago, and fit, he can rotate in and out with Harvey Elliott and Naby Keita as well. And obviously there'll be room for Jordan Henderson. There was a lot of quality in that midfield, and fans were really, really desperate to see it happen. In my last video, I sort of suggested that there's still, although maybe not a likely deal, I was looking at the possibilities of it happening, and I thought actually there was a possibility. Obviously, the wages were the biggest stumbling block, but obviously Barcelona are quite keen to have Frankie de Jong moved out of the club so they could bring in a Bernardo Silva. So you would be negotiating with the club that would be happy to sell a player, all of this stuff that you wouldn't usually have. But regardless of that, it was always going to be a bit of a dream signing. There's been other names touted about. Yuri Tillemans from Leicester City only got 1 year left on his deal. Leicester have wanted about 30 million for him, but I believe, if you go by some of the recent reports, they would be willing to accept about 16 million for Yuri Tillemans, a player who's been heavily linked with the league leaders Arsenal at this current moment in time. So, a potential real bargain deal for a player of Yuri Tillemans' quality. Again, I think a player who would come into Liverpool and would fit. There's obviously worries about Tillemans. Does he run hard enough? Does he run far? All these running stats that you can look at, and of course, but I think when you look at a player's quality, Yuri Tillemans is up there, and I think he would really add to this team. Another player is Ruben Neves from Wolverhampton Wanderers, who's been linked in the past few days. But again, it's so late in the transfer window that Wolves don't want to see him go. There's been some reports about him being valued at close to 100 million, which would just be, would be ludicrous. But either way, there's been some really big names. There's been some exciting names. One player that I wanted to see signed at Liverpool is a player who's actually trending right now, Moises Caicedo. I think he would fit this team to a glove. However, there has been another midfielder who has been linked with Liverpool for a number of years now, and throughout this transfer window, he's been sort of bubbling under the surface, and that is the midfielder from Sheffield United, Sander Berge. Now, not a signing that I think would excite a lot of Liverpool fans. And I might be in that camp. I don't really know how I'd feel about this signing. He's obviously a player who Liverpool have looked at for a long time, like we can see here. I'm reading this news on the Anfield edition. I really like the Anfield edition and the Anfield Watch. I like to get all my Liverpool news from these pages. I have no affiliation with these guys, but if you are a Liverpool fan, I'd recommend that you give these guys a follow on social media. I'm sure you already do. They always come out with the most reliable news. So Jurgen Klopp and the Liverpool coaching staff and scouting network have been a huge fan of Sander Berge for quite a long time. They were scouting him when he was playing for Genk, and we were very heavily interested in him back then. I remember that. And I remember watching this guy for Sheffield United, and he's a very talented player. There's no doubt he can play that number 8 role. He can play that number 6 role, which we all know is what Jurgen Klopp wants. Obviously, Paul Joyce the other day tweeted that is what Liverpool are looking for heavily in this transfer market. However, a few things. He plays in the Championship. That's not a problem to me. We brought in obviously Andy Robertson, who had just got relegated. We just brought up Carvalho, who was playing brilliantly in the Championship. We sent out Harvey Elliott on loan to the Championship. He's come back and he's gone to another level. So playing in the Championship to me isn't necessarily a red flag. However, again, it's not the most exciting name that's been thrown out there, especially with the links to Frankie de Jong. So obviously it is a little bit disappointing in that regard. However, if Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp and the scouts and everyone involved within this club feel that this guy will fit and feel that he is the correct transfer target, then I'm happy for that, because Liverpool in the transfer market over the past number of years have been very successful. However, there are a few issues. £35 million for this guy. Well, you look at that and you go, has a fair amount of money, especially for a club that didn't want to go out and sign a midfielder. And you think we could potentially spend 10 million more than that and get a Moises Caicedo. We could potentially spend 10, 15 million less than that and get a Yuri Tillemans. Now, again, if everyone involved with the transfer deals at Liverpool Football Club and Jurgen Klopp himself fully believe that this guy is the right target, then him costing 35 million or 20 million or 50, it doesn't bother me. However, I look at that and I think there are other targets that I think would be better, potentially for cheaper or just only for 10 million more. So the 35 million pound release clause I look at, and if this guy was available for 10 million, I'd get it. It'd be very much an FSG sort of style signing. But for 35 million, I do think there are potentially better options. Another worry about this guy is his injury record. Where can we find this? Someone did a stats here. His injury record potentially is worse than Naby Keita, and that's not what you want. Oh, here we go. So since December 2020, so bearing in mind this is less than 2 years now, but since December of 2020, Sander Berge has missed 32 games for Sheffield United, all through injury. That's shocking. That is genuinely appalling for an injury record. That's less than 2 years. That's nearly a whole season out injured. That's not good. That is a worry, especially when so many of our midfielders in particular are injury prone, and this is why we've been struggling in midfield. Jordan Henderson's been picking up niggling injuries. Curtis Jones has been picking up more and more niggling injuries and is starting, in my opinion, to get a bit of a reputation for a player who's out on the sidelines. Obviously, we all know about Thiago. We all know about Naby Keita. If we add in this guy, who's meant to be a player who can come in and cover these guys and sort of help take us to the next level, which is the purpose of transfer signings. If he's just another player who's going to be out injured, at what point do you start to question Liverpool and their scouting department and our transfer strategy? Because this has been an area of the club that has been heavily praised by fans and by media outlets and rival fans. Everyone, I think, say when you look at Manchester United, Liverpool, you would go Manchester United have spent more money than Liverpool over the past number of seasons. They've bought bigger names, they've bought more exciting players, but a lot of them have really flopped. It's been a terrible transfer strategy, whether because of injury-prone players that don't fit, yada, yada, yada. Whereas Liverpool perhaps haven't spent quite as much, but have gone out, bought the right players, players that fit, players that have taken Liverpool to another level. And I think if you try to think of a player who's really flopped under Jurgen Klopp in terms of a big transfer that hasn't really hit the heights, obviously people will look at Minamino. That Minamino didn't cost an awful lot of money, and actually he was a good squad player, should have played more. he was vital in Liverpool winning 2 trophies last season. You'd probably look at the biggest flop being Naby Keita, and looking at those injury problems, the likelihood is Naby Keita will probably go out. Well, not I was going to say go out on loan. He's not going to go out on loan, obviously. I meant to say he's going to go next season, possibly for free. There are some reports suggesting that Liverpool want to sign him to a new deal. I don't know how I feel about that because, again, letting Naby Keita go for free would be shocking business, but then signing him to another 4-year deal or whatever with a player whose injury record is so horrific would just it would just negligence. Would that maybe be the correct word? A guy who's been out injured for regularly for the past 4 or 5 years, you're going to reward that with potentially another 4 or 5 year deal. It would be bonkers. But again, letting him go for free after we bought him for 50 million wouldn't make sense. Anyway, I'm talking about young Naby Keita because we're talking about signings under Klopp who have been a bit of a flop, injury records, yada yada yada. If you then bring in Sander Berge, who potentially comes in to replace Naby Keita, but his injury record is just as bad, if not worse, than this guy, you really have to look at Liverpool's transfer strategy, and I think you have to start questioning it. You could look at Moises Caicedo. I know he's still young. I know he's unproven. You could look at a Yuri Tillemans. Ruben Neves has a fantastic injury record. He would cost more, of course he would, but again, what ends up costing this club more? We could spend an extra 30 million potentially on a Jong, another 20, 30 million on Ruben Neves. I really don't know how much Wolves would value this guy at, and have a player who potentially plays at a higher quality than this guy and is also available more regularly. Or you can take the slightly cheaper option, but then have a player who's persistently out injured. So in the end, what costs you more? I'd imagine taking the cheaper route and going for the guy who's persistently injured, rather than investing more to begin with, but then getting more back would be the correct transfer strategy. But who am I really to question sort of Liverpool's sort of transfer strategy over the past number of years? But I do question this still if it goes ahead. Obviously, if we bring him in, I'll support him. Like we all will. We'll all want the best. We'll all want to see what he can do. However, you look at that and you think it is a little bit of a worry for to bring in a very injury proven midfielder. It does feel like you're in a bit of a sitcom sometimes as a Liverpool fan. Anyway, we're going to end this video here. I've seen this little poll. So the reaction to this isn't exactly positive, but let's put it to a poll. So would you be happy with Sander Berge? What should we do? Yes or no? Yes or no? I'm going to go with no, I think. Let's see what it's like. 81.4% have said no. it's not the signing that we really want to see. Let's look at this. So this is going up from 16-17. Obviously some of the more injury records over the last couple of seasons have. So if you look, between 16-17 to 2021, he didn't miss an awful lot of days out. Obviously, the 17-18 season looks like potentially a bit of an anomaly there. A torn muscle. But other than that, he missed 3 games. He missed 9 games, which isn't great. He seemed to miss no days out really the following season, and then he missed 20 games, and he was out only for 1 game with COVID, and then he was out with 12. So when he gets injured, he seems to bloody get injured, this guy, and he'll miss the whole season, or he seems available regularly. So maybe he's not as injury prone as potentially Naby Keita. But again, this isn't really a signing that I think is going to excite and please many Liverpool fans, unfortunately. But I do think it's going to be the type of signing that we will make. We're not going to sign a Frankie de Jong. I can't see us signing a Ruben Neves, especially not this late in the window. We've got 4 more days, I believe, something like that, to go and sign someone. It could well be Sander Berge or nothing. If it's Sander Berge or nothing, then we go with Sander Berge. But hopefully hopefully there is a better option out there. But either way, whoever we bring in, obviously we're going to support and want the best for. So anyway, guys, that is the latest news regarding Liverpool signing a potential midfielder. It looks like we are very interested in Sander Berge from Sheffield United for a whopping £35 million. Let me know, guys, in the comments down below. How do you feel about this? Are you a bit like me, you on the fence, doesn't really excite you, a little bit worried about his injuries, or have you seen him a lot more than I have, and you go, actually, yeah, this guy really fits this football club, and actually he is exactly the type of player that we need. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give the video a like, obviously, and give us a subscribe, because this channel has been growing a lot recently, and it's great to see. So we just want to see as many of you join our Big Sam's Long Balls family, and let us know in the comments down below any other footballing topics that you want me or Chris to have a chat about. So thank you so much, guys, for watching, and we'll see you very soon.